The silence in this apartment is a physical thing. It's not just an absence of noise, it's a presence, a heavy blanket that smothers everything. It's been 3 days since Philip left, and the weight of it presses down on me, settling in my chest and making it hard to draw a full breath. He took everything that was his, and he did it with a chilling, surgical precision. His worn out university sweatshirt, the one he always wore on lazy Sundays, is gone from the hook by the door. His ridiculously large collection of coffee mugs, each with a different nerdy reference I never understood, has vanished from the kitchen cabinet. The entire apartment feels lobotomized, scraped clean of his existence. Everything except that damn ergonomic gaming chair. It sits in front of his empty desk like a sleek, black tombstone, a monument to a life I didn't respect enough to understand. I hate that chair. I hate how he'd sit in it for hours, that focused look on his face, his world shrinking to the glowing screen in front of him. Now it just mocks me, a silent accusation in the corner of the living room we once shared. My phone screen is the only light, casting a cold, ghostly glow on my face. It's open to my group chat, the one I have with Jessica and the girls from work. I keep scrolling up, a masochistic ritual I can't seem to stop. I'm torturing myself, rereading the messages, reliving the moment. There it is, the screenshot I sent them. The one of his account, his username, Crimson Knight, spewing the most toxic, arrogant trash talk imaginable in his team's public Discord channel. Below it, my slick, witty caption, making sure he finally has a presence. The cascade of laughing, crying emojis that followed still stings my eyes. They came in so fast, a flurry of validation for my cruelty. "Danny, you are savage," one read. "OMG, I'm crying," said another. I felt so powerful then, so clever, so wickedly funny. I was the queen of our little inside joke, the one who wasn't afraid to be a little bit ruthless for a laugh. Now, staring at the screen in this suffocating quiet, that feeling has evaporated. I don't feel clever, I don't feel funny. I feel nothing but a hollow, freezing void where my heart used to be. It was just a joke. God, it was supposed to be a joke. How did a stupid, meaningless joke end like this? Philip and I were together for 2 years. On paper, we were a weird match, a fact my friends never let me forget. I'm a client director at a high-pressure PR firm in the city. My world is a shark tank where the currency is clever takedowns and carefully curated anecdotes. It's a constant performance, a relentless game of maintaining an image of being sharp, witty, and always in control. Philip, on the other hand, was a database administrator for a software company. He was my anchor, my quiet harbor in that storm. He was methodical, profoundly, unapologetically genuine, and the only person I felt I could be truly silent with. He was the place where I didn't have to be on. But I took that quiet harbor and sold it for parts to get a few cheap laughs. His greatest passion, his escape, was an intricate, digital world in a game called Aegis Tactics. And in the biting, sarcastic ecosystem of my friend group, this was a goldmine. I saw his hobby as childish, a benign but ultimately silly pastime. It became my go-to material, a reliable piece of social currency I could cash in whenever I needed to feel interesting or relatable to my cynical colleagues. Especially with Jessica, my closest work friend and the undisputed alpha of our group. "How's the general and his little pixel army?" She'd ask with a smirk over expensive cocktails, and I'd play my part perfectly. I'd perform a caricature of him. "Oh, you know Philip," I'd say, leaning in conspiratorially, a dramatic sigh escaping my lips, busy commanding his little space marines. "Someone has to save the virtual galaxy, I guess." They would howl with laughter, and I'd feel a warm flush of acceptance. I was one of them. I was cool, detached, and not one of those girlfriends who got invested in their partner's nerdy hobbies. He tried to explain it to me once, showing me a replay of a match they'd won against impossible odds. He was so proud, his eyes lit up as he pointed out the complex strategies, the teamwork, the split-second decisions. I remember just nodding along, my eyes glazed over, scrolling through Instagram on my phone. It was just background noise to me, the equivalent of him telling me about a particularly challenging spreadsheet at work. What I willfully ignored, what my curated narrative for my friends conveniently left out, was the depth of his commitment. He wasn't just playing a game. He was the captain and founder of his team, the Crimson Vanguard. He spent hours devising strategies, mentoring younger players, and building a community defined by mutual respect. He spoke about his teammates with a fierce loyalty I rarely saw in my own cutthroat industry. To him, the reputation he had built in that online world was as real and as valuable as the professional reputation I guarded so jealously. He believed in things like sportsmanship, integrity, and leading by example. It was his code. That was his invisible red line, the one I was too busy performing to ever see. And I, in my infinite, blinding arrogance, was about to dance all over it with muddy boots. It happened on the eve of the Aegis Ascent, the biggest annual tournament for his game. This wasn't just another match. It was their Super Bowl, the culmination of a year's worth of grueling practice, late-night strategy sessions, and hard-won victories. Philip was practically vibrating with a nervous energy I'd never seen in him before. He'd been preparing for this for months. He spent the entire evening in his study, what he called his command center, poring over heat maps and opponent analytics. The quiet, rhythmic clicking of his mouse was a steady backdrop to the rising volume in our living room. I, on the other hand, was hosting. I'd invited Jessica and a few other girls from the office over for wine, turning our shared home into the very stage for the performance I was about to give. As the second bottle of Pinot Noir was uncorked, the jokes began to flow as freely as the wine. And as usual, Philip was the main target. "Danny is your commander in his war room preparing for battle?" Jessica snickered, swirling her glass dramatically. "I bet he has little diagrams with arrows and everything." Another chimed in, and they all erupted in laughter. I soaked it up, laughing the loudest, feeding them more material. "You have no idea," I'd say, playing the part of the long-suffering partner. "The fate of the universe hangs in the balance." The alcohol and the intoxicating feeling of being the witty, irreverent center of their attention created a dangerous cocktail in my head. I felt a familiar, ugly urge surface. The need to escalate, to deliver a punchline so shocking and hilarious it would be the story they retold at brunch for weeks. I needed a grand finale for my act. That's when the idea, a truly monstrous one, slithered into my mind. It felt less like a thought and more like an impulse, a spark of pure, malicious mischief fueled by cheap wine and a desperate need for validation. "Girls, you have to see this. I have the best idea," I whispered, a conspiratorial grin spreading across my face. Philip had just gotten up to go to the bathroom, leaving his study door ajar. His computer screen was unlocked, the Discord app glowing with the vibrant logos of different channels. It was a perfect, terrible opportunity. I tiptoed into the room, my heart hammering with a cheap, exhilarating thrill. I felt like a spy on a secret mission. I sat in his chair, the one that now haunts my waking moments, and took a deep breath. I clicked on the main channel for the Crimson Vanguard, a public forum where hundreds of players, including their upcoming opponents, could see the messages. My fingers flew across the keyboard, a giddy sense of power surging through me. I typed out a stream of the most vile, arrogant, and unsportsmanlike garbage I could conjure. It was a masterclass in toxicity. I insulted their biggest rivals, the team they were set to play the next day, calling them predictable second-rate button mashers who got lucky. I even took shots at his own teammates, writing under his name, "Don't worry, I'll carry you talentless scrubs like I always do. Just try not to get in my way." It was a persona so diametrically opposed to the quiet, humble leader Philip actually was that it felt, in my wine-addled brain, like a brilliant piece of satire. A masterpiece of irony. I hit send, the words appearing instantly under his name and avatar. Then the final, fatal flourish. I took a screenshot of the tirade, my thumb hovering over the send button in my own group chat. I typed the caption, making sure he finally has a presence, and sent it. The immediate explosion of laughing emojis and "OMG, you didn't" messages was my applause. For a fleeting, pathetic moment, I felt like a rock star. I was adored, I was hilarious, and I was completely and utterly blind to the fact that I hadn't just detonated a bomb. I had strapped it to the foundation of our entire life together and lit the fuse myself. I woke up the next morning to the smell of coffee I didn't make. My head was throbbing, a dull, familiar ache from the wine. When I stumbled into the living room, I found Philip sitting on the edge of the sofa, fully dressed. He was staring at the blank television screen, a freshly brewed mug of coffee untouched on the table in front of him. He hadn't slept. I could see it in the pale, drawn look on his face and the dark circles under his eyes, which were usually so bright and clear. The air was thick with a tension that was entirely new to our home. "Hey, you're up early for game day," I said, trying to sound breezy, my voice raspy. He didn't turn to look at me. He just slowly, deliberately picked up his phone from the coffee table and held it out in my direction. I took it, my stomach twisting into a cold knot. On the screen was a message from someone named Aegis Admin. It was a formal notification. "Due to a severe violation of the league's sportsmanship and fair play clauses, your account has been suspended and the Crimson Vanguard has been disqualified from the Aegis Ascent tournament, effective immediately." My blood ran cold. Below that were dozens of messages from his teammates, confused, hurt, and angry messages. "Dude, what the hell was that last night? We got disqualified because of you. After 5 years, you do this to us." My first instinct was to deflect, to minimize. It's what I do for a living. Oh my god, honey, it was a joke, I said, a nervous laugh escaping my lips. They can't be serious, it was just some stupid trash talk. They're being way too sensitive. That's when he finally looked at me, and the expression in his eyes, it wasn't anger. There was no rage, no fire, it was something far worse. It was a look of calm, profound disappointment. It was the look you give something that has been irrevocably broken. It wasn't a joke, Danielle, he said, his voice flat, devoid of any emotion. You took something I spent 5 years building, not the game, the trust, the respect. You took it and you used it as a punchline for your friends. He paused, and his gaze drifted towards the closed door of his study. You don't just disrespect the game, you disrespect me. You don't respect anything I care about, do you? His words hit me with the force of a physical blow, shattering the fragile, wine-soaked bravado I had been clinging to. The PR professional in me, the one who could spin any disaster, was gone. I was just Danielle, and I had messed up on a scale I couldn't comprehend. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed its way up my throat. No, Philip, no, that's not true, I stammered, rushing to his side. I'm so sorry, I was drunk, I was being stupid with my friends. It didn't mean anything, I'll fix it. I'll write to the admin, I'll tell them it was me. He just shook his head slowly, a gesture of finality that terrified me. He stood up not with anger, but with a strange, detached resolve. He walked past me towards our bedroom, and I heard the closet door slide open. It's not about fixing it, he said, his voice coming from the other room. It's about the fact that you did it in the first place. He began to move with a calm, horrifying efficiency. There was no shouting, no throwing things, no dramatic confrontation. He was just packing. He pulled his suitcase from the top of the closet and started methodically taking his clothes from their hangers. I followed him, a torrent of desperate apologies and pathetic excuses spilling from my mouth. I cried, I begged, I told him I loved him. Each plea felt like it was being absorbed by a thick, soundproof wall. He didn't respond. He just kept moving, folding his shirts with a precision that felt cruel. He gathered his things from the bathroom, then his books from the shelf. He was systematically erasing himself from our life, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. When he finally had his bags by the door, I stood in front of him, my body blocking the exit, tears streaming down my face. Please, Philip. Don't do this. He looked at me one last time, his eyes empty of the warmth I had taken for granted for 2 years. I will never be able to look at you again, he said, his voice quiet but absolute, without seeing someone who would burn down my world just to get a laugh. He stepped around me as if I were a piece of furniture. The door opened and then it clicked shut behind him. I lunged for my phone, my hands shaking, and called him. It went straight to voicemail. I sent a frantic text. A single gray checkmark appeared, not delivered. He had already blocked me. He wasn't just gone, he was an excision. Complete, total, and brutally clean. The days that followed were a blur of hollow panic. The silence in the apartment became my tormentor. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant siren only amplified the crushing absence of his presence. I tried to function. I went to work, plastering on my professional smile, my mind a screaming void. I reached out to my friends, the audience, for my catastrophic performance. I called Jessica, my voice cracking as I recounted Philip's insane overreaction. He just packed his bags and left, I sobbed into the phone, over a stupid joke. Can you believe how sensitive he is? There was a beat of awkward silence on the other end. Oh wow, Danny, that's really intense, she said, her voice lacking its usual confident bite. Yeah, he's like way too serious about that game stuff. Anyway, listen, I gotta run, I'm getting pulled into a meeting. Let's catch up later, she never called back. My other friends offered similar lukewarm sympathies before quickly changing the subject or making an excuse to end the conversation. They weren't cutting me off, not explicitly. It was a subtle, awkward distancing. I had made things messy, uncomfortable. My real-life drama had breached the invisible wall of our carefully maintained, ironic detachment. I was no longer the witty court jester, I was a problem. The applause had stopped and the audience had gone home. Desperate for answers, for some kind of connection, I did something I never thought I would. I created a new, anonymous account and navigated to the Aegis Tactics community forums, a place I had previously dismissed as the digital equivalent of a comic book store basement. It didn't take me long to find what I was looking for. There was a stickied post at the top of the main discussion board, titled An Apology and a Farewell by Crimson Knight. My heart hammered against my ribs as I clicked on it. It was from Philip. He took full, unconditional responsibility for the toxic and unsportsmanlike comments made from his account. He offered a profound apology to the tournament organizers, to the opposing team, and most of all, to his own teammates, who he said he had failed as a leader. He didn't make excuses. He didn't mention me, he didn't hint at any outside influence. He just owned it. And then he announced he was stepping down as captain and taking an indefinite leave from the community he had built. The replies were a gut punch. One after another, his teammates and even his rivals came to his defense. Captain, we know that wasn't you. Someone must have hacked you. This is BS. We all know you're the most honorable player in the league. And the one that broke me from his second in command. We'll hold down the fort until you come back, Philip. The Vanguard isn't the Vanguard without you. Reading those words, I finally, truly understood. I hadn't just told a bad joke. I had committed an act of identity theft. I had worn his reputation like a costume to amuse my friends, and in doing so, I had smeared the one thing he held sacred. I had attacked his honor in his world, a world I hadn't even bothered to learn the rules of. Months have passed. The crushing, acute panic of those first few weeks has settled into a dull, chronic ache that is now the baseline of my existence. The silence in the apartment is no longer a novelty. It's a roommate, a constant, suffocating companion. I quit my job at the PR firm. I couldn't stand the forced smiles, the glib chatter, the way Jessica and the others would look at me with a mixture of pity and discomfort. I couldn't perform anymore. The stage had become a place of shame, but I can't escape Philip. In fact, my obsession has only deepened, metastasizing into something ugly and pathetic. I've become the very thing I used to mock. A stalker, a ghost haunting the digital hallways of a world I don't belong to. My anonymous gaming account is my most used app. It's my window into the life that's moved on without me. My only entertainment is logging onto the streaming platform to watch the Crimson Vanguard's matches. They have a new captain now, a player Philip had been mentoring, and they're good, really good. They play with a new ferocity, a new focus. I watch them execute strategies I vaguely remember Philip trying to explain to me, his voice full of a passion I dismissed as noise. I watch them win, then last night it happened. The announcer's voice boomed, and look who's back in the lineup for the Vanguard tonight, folks. A welcome return for the one and only Crimson Knight. My breath caught in my chest. There he was, not as captain, just as a regular player. He played brilliantly, seamlessly integrating back into the team he had built. They won a decisive victory. After the match, the team's live camera feed popped up on the screen. They were all laughing, celebrating. The camera zoomed in on Philip. He was clapping a teammate on the back, a wide, unburdened smile on his face. It was a smile of pure, unadulterated joy. It was a smile I don't think he ever showed me, not really. With me, his smiles were always softer, more reserved. This was different. This was the smile of a man who was truly, completely at home, surrounded by people who saw him, respected him, and shared his world. The chat log on the side of the stream exploded with messages. Welcome back, Knight, legend, so glad you're back, man. And me, I was just a number in the viewer count, a ghost in the machine. I closed the laptop, the reflection of my own hollow face staring back at me from the dark screen. This is my life now, sitting alone in the dark, watching the man I love be happier without me. This is the punchline, this is the hell of my own making. And the worst part is, it's not even funny.